Hi, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review Studio. Welcome back to another installment of the DeAgostini build, the 1/6 scale Ford GT500 Mustang. And I said it, 1/6 scale is the largest car out there in the part work realm. So if you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini and subscribe to this build today. I put a direct link down below. Click on that link. Lets DeAgostini know you're watching my videos. Let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another installment of the DeAgostini Collectibles Build Your Own Ford Mustang. Yes, this is the 1/6 scale Shelby GT500 from 1967. I received pack number 9. In pack number 9, I received stages 34 through 38. Now head over to DeAgostini Collectibles today and subscribe to this. Don't pass this up. It's a fantastic build. It is 1/6 scale. It's the largest part work kit Mustang out there. It builds almost just like the 1/8 scale ones, but this one's a lot larger. So this is fantastic. Every stage you receive a magazine, and the magazine is full of articles. The Shelby story starts off here with this, and then moving on, we have the build instructions, very well detailed and laid out here, easy to follow. Probably the easiest kit to build out there so far that I've experienced. And then we have another article, the Ford story, Ford Mustang, the little Mustang, fantastic here. I have a good friend up in the mountains that tubbed one of these, made it for drag racing, so that's very cool. And there you go. Moving on. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the parts that came with this pack. Stage 34, the brakes. Stage 35, the tire. Stage 36, the wheel. Stage 37, the wheel liner. And stage 38, one of the rear springs. Let's get started. In this pack or this video, I'm going to go ahead and combine some of the stages because it just makes sense to combine, you know, the wheel and tire and some of the other components dealing with the wheel and tire. So why split it up? I'm just going to combine those. So we'll start off with the brake here. We're going to work on the left rear drum and shock absorber, and we've already done this once. I think we did the right side, and we're going to go ahead and assemble the shock assembly, mount that to the bottom of the chassis, and then mount the shock to the rear spring. Go ahead and start working on the brake drum and caliper components, inner and outer drum, that is. That's what that looks like. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 34. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. Here's our shock absorber, the rear shock. Here's the backing plate for the drum. You can see it has an attachment for a brake line. We also have the internal workings of the brake, the little adjuster, brake adjuster, and then the drum itself. Very detailed there, very nice. We have the mount for the shock along with the pin that holds that in place, PS05 and PS23 screws. And we'll go ahead and mount the top of the shock to the hanger, the shock hanger. Now they say they want you to mount them to where the angles of them coincide, and you can see the top mount is angled. And you can also see the top of the shock is angled too. So that coincides. We're going to put that together, and then we'll put our pin into it to secure it together. And going to put the pin in from the right. You can see the serrations there. That's going to lock the pin in place. I'm going to use some Teflon coated pliers for this. Perfect for that. Okay, we'll go ahead and mount this to the chassis. Okay, it's going to mount to the left-hand side of the chassis from underneath, right in this spot right here. Note that there's an alignment pin. We want to put that with the pin in the right area. And there it is installed. I used the other end of the shock to help line it up. It's a little fiddly to get it in place. Once you do that, then you put a PSO5 on the other side. Next, I inserted the shock piston into the top of the shock, and then I installed it on the mount here for the spring with a PS23 screw. That's a flange screw. Now I'll bring over the rear brake parts. We're going to go ahead and press the brake assembly into the rear backing plate here, and this has 2 tabs, and it just snaps together just like that. Next, we'll take the brake assembly. We're going to slide that on the axle just like that, and you'll see there's an alignment tab for that. See that? And then the drum, same thing, slides over the top of that with the same alignment tab. And that's all I do with stage 34. Let's head over and do stage 35 and 36. We're going to put the wheel and tire together. Next, I'll go ahead and assemble the tire and the wheel. 35 is for the tire and 36 is for the wheel. And there's the parts for 35. And we've done this before. It's pretty easy. I'll just show you what I've done already. Sometimes it does help to heat up the tire in some very hot water, and that will help you along with that. 36 is the wheel itself. Left rear wheel. We'll assemble that like we did before. Cross torquing or screwing down those screws in a cross method. And then that ultimately will mount to the brake and drum. And we'll have one completed there on one side there. That looks very good. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 35. We'll get a closer look at those here in a second. And here's the parts for 36. Let's look at the parts for 35 and 36. Here's a close-up of those parts. Here's all the parts for the tire. It is very pliable, so you may not even have to heat it up. It is very nice. It's been a minute since I've assembled this, so I can't remember if I heated it up or not, but we'll find out. And then, of course, these are the inserts for the tire to make them a little more stiffer. And then we have the wheel itself, which is made of metal. Very nice finish on that. Again, the back side of the wheel. And we have our lug nuts and our Cobra center cap, PS12 and PS19 screws. Here's a close-up of the lug nuts. The valve stem, which I totally forgot that was still in the bag, and a close-up of the Cobra cap. Okay, here it is assembled with the inserts in there. Make the tire a little more rigid. Now, I was able to do it without heating it up, but really, I would recommend go ahead and boil some water, throw it in the water for about 2 or 3 minutes, take it out, and then while it's still hot, insert those parts, because it was hard to get it in, because you really got to stretch the tire over those. But there you go. That completes stage 35. Let's do 36. First thing for the wheel, they want you to install the valve stem and the lug nuts. So the valve stem goes into a hole here on the back side, and you probably want to go ahead and press down on it with some pliers to make sure it's flush so it's inserted solid. And then the lug nuts themselves, there's that alignment tab. Make sure you line it up with that and you're good to go. Now we can put the 2 halves of the wheel on the tire. Now the back wheel only goes on one way. Make sure you line up the tabs to line up with the corresponding notches that are on the plastic inserts. Those locking mechanisms have notches on them, and it only goes on one way. Don't think it's 190 degrees is same on the other side, because it's not. So I would recommend you at least get 2 of the screws started, put a little oil on them, that won't hurt, and then start your cross screwing in the rest of your screws, and everything should line up. Once you have them all started, make sure they're loose when you get them all started, then go ahead and tighten them down in a cross torque method. Alright, all the screws are tight. Looks good. Now we'll go ahead and retrieve our drum and brake assembly that we had assembled previous stage, and we're going to insert that into the back side of the wheel, lining up that notch we talked about. Same thing again, we'll do the same thing with the brake assembly. We're going to line that up with the notch also, and that's actually going to line up to the axle itself. That's how that looks. Now we'll go ahead and mount this to the axle. We're going to use a DS12 screw to screw that down. I put the brake on that right where the notch is, and then we'll mate the two together. Mated together, and now my DS12 screw can go into that. And lastly, I can put my cap on there. It's magnetized, so that looks great. Alright, that's all I do with stage 36. Let's head over and do stage 37. Let's look at stage 37. Left rear wheel fender. Pretty simple there. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. And here's our fender. Let's get a closer look. DSO2 screw and our plastic fender wheel liner. And alright, I'll bring over the fender liner. It's going to go down on 3 tabs. Just like that. And there you go. 3 DSO2 screws were used for that. I used a little bit of oil on them. That's what that looks like. That completes stage 37. Let's head over and do stage 38. Let's look at the instructions for the final stage for this video, stage 38. Right rear leaf spring. Very cool there. Just put that together like we did the other one. Shouldn't be any issues whatsoever. We'll mount that to the bottom of the chassis. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here are those parts. Get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. Here's our spring. Very nice, made of metal. And we have our hangers for those, made of plastic. We have the pins to mount those to the hangers. We have the center mount for the shock and DSO1, PSO5 screws. Alright, the first thing I did is I installed the hangers onto the spring. Now you have a short, see the hole here? You have a shorter side. Shorter side has the smaller diameter hanger compared to the longer side has the larger hanger. Now we'll mount that to the chassis. Now those metal pins were used for this. You can see them right there. Now we're going to take the shock mount and the spring cradle here. We're going to insert the tab into that hole there and simply line up everything and put our 2 screws into that. 2 DSO1 screws were used for that, and I did put a little bit of oil on those. And as far as our spring hangers go, PSO1 screws were used for that. And right there. And since they're going into plastic, you don't want to put oil on that. And right there. And that's all I do with stage 38. Looks great. We did a lot so far with this build. I think it looks fantastic. I'll be right back. And that completes pack 9. This was really easy to do. I had a blast doing this. and I'm really enjoying this immensely. Head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and subscribe to this today. I put a direct link down below. You won't regret it. This is fantastic. Just look how large this is. This is just the back part of the car. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Happy modeling, everybody. And I'll see you with Pack 10. I have it on hand. It will be coming out very shortly.